Hey guys, I'm Phoenix here and welcome to Stationeers. Now this is a game about survival on a hostile world, and it's what I would consider to be an addiction to detail. So this is like Space Engineers in a sense, in that it's in space, I guess, and it's that same sort of block building construction style. However, well, let's just jump into my world and I'll show you what's going on. You see, everything's a little bit more complicated. So if you want an oxygen-rich environment, you can do that. That's fine. You just have to be conscious that at some point everything might sort of just explode. Because if you have oxygen, if you have a lot of heat, they don't mix particularly well. Currently my base is in a vacuum mainly because I haven't set up all the bits yet, and I will also be doing a quick tutorial on how to use the I/O system, because I do not understand that if you end up on my channel, usually it's because you want to know how something is done, and as I learn it I will teach you how I've done stuff, and that will be in another video. That will be in a different quick video. But I thought I would do a sort of a base look around and look at the game itself. So this is a game that's been developed by a company called Rocketworks. Now they haven't done a huge amount before Stationeers. They released two VR games, fully released VR games, and then they started work on a game called Iron. Now it didn't go anywhere. It was a sort of, it landed in a few magazines, but ultimately the project was abandoned. And then they made this. And this is in early access. Now, in about a week, they pretty much had everything that you see before you now. An awful lot of the work that they've done is adding a few bits and pieces, sure, but quite a lot of the work that they've been doing is in optimization and bug fixing and just trying to get the game a little bit more stable than it already is. Now I should note, early access, buyer beware, etc, etc. Something I will also quickly note is that one of the developers is Dean Hall. Whatever your feelings towards him, I don't really care, to be honest. My base has just run out of power. From what I've seen of this game, he's got a really, really good idea. Because it's a survival game but with a twist, and that twist is that you do have to think about your designs. So for example, considering I've just lost power to the base, we'll go into here. Now in here is a little setup that I rigged up just now actually, simply because I wanted a space in which to test some designs. So I was just about to start with playing around with logic systems. So here we have a logic reader and a logic writer, and you can change the settings using the screwdriver, and I'll go into this in a proper video. But we got a blast door here which you can craft in the fabricator. We'll go into that in a minute, but by turning off that dial it closes the door. Now, this system can be used for an awful lot more complicated things. I want to build in a system that will allow me to monitor the power in the battery and turn on the generator accordingly, or turn it off when it's full. I also want to build a password type of system so that you can enter a password and the door will then open as a response to that. So that's a couple of things that I'm going to be working on. And I also need to see if I can work on a thermostat and on a system that will input the correct gas mix into the blast furnace, but again we'll go into all that in a moment. The base is starting to boot up again, so let's wander in. So first of all, we've got a sort of an airlock. These doors do close, and this does then create a seal within the base. You can pressurize these bases. You can also over-pressurize them, which apparently does... I haven't actually done one yet. I've over-pressurized my oxygen systems, and that went horribly wrong. But you can over-pressurize rooms, and it does sort of just suddenly become a vacuum, let's say. So in closing this door, we've got a storage thing. These doors do respond to... I'll just pull out my labeler. So if I rename the door to say door and confirm, it'll rename the door on the thing, which I think is quite a nice little thing you can do. You can also add like stickers almost to pipes. We've got one through here as well, but we'll go into that in a sec. So this is my main room, and things are probably going to change. I want to add some windows in here. I want to get rid of some of this wire mess that I tried to do up here, because I was trying to build a thermostat system and it wasn't working. My portable air scrubber, so you can run out of oxygen in this game, and you can also overfill your waste tank. So that's my air tank, that's my waste tank there. Yeah. And you do also have to watch your life support battery as well. Now I've got all that charging off solar panels, and we'll go into that in a sec. So yeah, so we've got a locker. So all your stuff just sort of ends up in the locker. It's all visible, so you can pull it out at whim. So we've got conveyors, we've got some silver, we've got just a little bit of everything in there. And then into here was going to be my machine room, and I guess it is basically my machine room here. And over here we've got a fabricator, which is a sort of I wouldn't necessarily say an endgame machine, because that sounds like it's, everything in the game. This is not everything that's going to be in the game. There's going to be a huge amount more stuff. But this is just a way of automatically creating certain numbers of components, and you can put one of these controls anywhere in your base and hook it up into the fabricator, and then potentially have, say, a chute. So I want to create a chute, and it will automatically create, say, 4 chutes, and it will tell you what it needs and how much it actually has of it in there, and then it will kick it out again, kick it out of there. Now I don't believe I can put that in there, but I can probably put a conveyor belt in at some point, but that's a job for some point. Anyway, let's cycle my airlock. I need to fix this airlock. I think the inner and outer doors are flipped around, and sometimes it goes a little bit weird. Just cancel the door. Yeah, okay. So I think it thinks that this door is the exterior and this is the interior. I need to flip the doors around. Come on, let me out. There we go. So moving on through here, this is going to be my blast furnace room, as well as an air filtration system. So it will take any gases that are expired from. See, there's the pipe labels up there, and this is going to be my gas mixer system with a blast furnace and a couple of valves on here, just because I needed the system to not dump the exhaust when I put it in the tank. So blast furnace up there, that's how you make sort of your combination, your compounds, things like steel, solder, all of that is done through the blast furnace. And then this system is designed to filter out those gases, or any gases that end up in this system, and then put it into tanks, which can then be sorted out later. This will be a little bit more complicated, because this one for the volatiles will then lead up into this tank, and there'll also be an intake for the oxides, and yeah, it'll all be extremely complicated, but it should be very awesome. Once it's done, you can dye all the, you can colour all these panels and all of these pipes up here. It's really, really quite awesome. Now, because I was having power problems, I haven't actually filled in this window yet, so I can just jump out of it and then run back to the outside. And yeah, and then somebody online worked out how... This isn't a creation of mine, this is something that somebody did online, and it's absolutely excellent. This little thing here, and you can grab this off Steam Community if you just put in solar panel control. I think it's something like that. It's just a very, very simple solar panel control. It's not particularly complicated. And basically all it does is it takes the sun angle up there, shoves it through this, and then pumps out through the batch writer what the angle of the solar panels need to be to get the optimum angle. Now you may notice that this one is stuck at whatever it is, some degrees. That's because I'm having some power problems, and although it's charging the solar panels, it's not charging that area power controller. So I've disabled that so that that solar panel is always going to be facing the sun, so when this system shuts down for the night, when the sun comes up, that solar panel can then reboot the entirety of the system, and then everything else wakes up. So yeah, that's my little base. It's a very sort of standard survival type of thing, I guess. In order to get resources, you mine nodes that are located throughout the system, or throughout the planet. This is the moon. They've also got the Mars coming, and they've also got a sort of an empty space, creative sort of world as well. But yeah, they want to do some quite interesting stuff, so I'll just talk about it now. So power, if I want power to run from this system over here, you run cables. These cables can blow, so you have to be a little bit careful. Over in this area I had a power line that just kept on blowing, and so you can put in fuses to protect cables and potentially machines in the future. I just ran a heavy cable out of here, and it's not been blowing since, mainly because that's now off. It's not actually functional, but the battery is fully charged so that I can do my little experiments here, and I shouldn't run out of power with this. But yeah, that's the game, basically. You run around, you mine stuff, you bring it back, you build crazy systems. They have water simulation in the game. They have complete air simulation as well. So if I was to close this door, and then if I was to oxygenate this room, then I could potentially take off my helmet if the pressure was high enough. But if, say, volatiles or carbon dioxide built up in this room, which can happen, you can then start to suffer from negative effects. They've got a lung system, so you can actually just die of carbon dioxide poisoning, essentially. If this room was full of carbon dioxide, you would suffer as a result. I've kind of glossed over pressurization. Basically, you can over-pressurize pipes and they will explode, and tanks as well. You put too much pressure into a tank, eventually it will explode. And there are devices that you can have to monitor this. You've got you haven't just got the I/O systems, you've also got the computers which can do a certain amount. There's different motherboards you can put in. This computer just has a manufacturing motherboard because all I need it to do is to deal with this thing. There are other motherboards that you can do. This is a little small. There are some bugs here and there. This is a little small for me. I would rather that this fabricator bit filled up the entire screen, then had a scroll bar down the side for additional stuff. But yeah, you can have energy rifles, pistols. There are meant to be enemies at some point being added into the game, as well as motherships may already be added to a certain degree. I don't know if I can build a mothership on the moon, but I can kind of grab turrets and where is it? just up a bit more. Let's see if the torpedo builder will... No, because I need Electrum, Invar and Constant for that. I don't have the resources to build that stuff yet. But it's really nice, the Fabricator, because you can queue stuff up, which you can't do with these basic machines. You can't queue stuff up. They will run until they run out of materials, which can be a little bit of downside. You do have to watch these machines. I haven't played much around with the I/O systems with these. Pretty much everything can be hooked into a data port. Everything has, almost everything has data that it can output in some respect. So they really do want you to experiment, and the game doesn't stop you from doing that. I think that's the really important difference between something like this and something like Space Engineers. Space Engineers sort of gets in the way constantly of you doing something interesting, either through bugs or through games design. Stationeers basically says, yeah, you can have a data port in there, you can run a data line off there, and then you can get information about that object. You can get information about what's inside it, or how long it's going to take to make something. I don't know. I haven't actually hooked this up to a data line. So, but through my experiments that I'm going to be doing for a little while, I will come back to you. I'll update you on quite how much information you can get out of these things, because I am quite interested to see what you can actually do with these. And I've said this before with the Space Engineers. When I first looked at Space Engineers, I said this could be a contender for Minecraft. And unfortunately, Space Engineers has just kind of got locked in development hell, and it's not really evolved too much. This, however, we'll see. We'll see quite how the game progresses. Certainly in its state as it is now, this is running pretty stable. I mean, my computer's getting a little warm, but the game is running stable. I don't know, the frame rate doesn't really drop that I've noticed. I am running this on a lower graphics setting, simply because my computer was getting a little warm. But it does use all 8 of my cores, so yeah. It's a complicated game, but if you're that way inclined, I think you could have quite a lot of fun with it. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video here, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.